Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So quiet in the sanctuary this morning. Usually I have to say that with gusto. I am the Reverend William Levwood, affectionately known as Rev Lev. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm so excited to be the minister here at Accotink Unitarian Universalist Church. We open and welcome to the ancestral people of this land, acknowledging that our church, like all of Burke, rests on the unceded territory of the Manahoac tribe of the Great Sioux Nation. We seek healing and the realization of justice with the people of this land who live on in their descendants, the present-day members of the Monacan Indian Nation, the Patawomic Indian Tribe of Virginia, and the Piscataway Indian Nation. We honor the ancestors as we move toward healing so that all together shall one day know full justice.
Good morning and welcome. I'm Sheila Doles. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm happy to be your worship associate this morning. This congregation is a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home where we inspire each other to live our values. Together, we care in community, grow in spirit, and act for justice. Whether you're a longtime member or a newcomer or something in between, we're so delighted that you decided to join us this morning. Welcome.
Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Building up a world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Wonderful, and I saw a lot of you swaying. I've been thinking about this, that, for myself, I have a dance background. I was a modern dancer, so I can do a lot of stuff while I'm talking or singing. But you're not necessarily trained dancers, so just to sway, right? And then you can still focus on what you're singing, or a little step is enough, right? Just to feel good in your body. So with that, I want to tell you that we have a very special service today. Our multi-generational services this year have been on the first Sunday of every month, but if you remember, we had snow on the first Sunday this month, so we moved our multi-generational service to today. It's also the beginning of our pledge drive, the theme of which is building a house for hope. And I want to let you in on a little something. We're actually going to make a house for hope today in our service. But we're also building that house for hope by deciding how much you're committing to pledge for the next church year. So I'm going to invite this year's pledge chair, Julie Shuck, up to tell you more about the pledge drive.
Thank you, Rev Lab. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm here, as Rev Lab noted, to kick off this year's pledge campaign. Many of you are familiar with the ask. For those of you who are new or need a reminder, this is an annual activity common to UU churches to take stock of anticipated congregational contributions for the next program year, which runs July through June. Making a pledge during the campaign helps the board and church leadership plan next year's budget. The campaign will run from today through the end of March, and we encourage you to think about your own situation and what you may be able to give and make a pledge during the campaign period. The board, as Rev Lev noted, has adopted the theme of building a house for hope, and you'll see many aspects of hope and building such a house weaved into worship and Sunday activities. And you can read more. Oh, I forgot to bring a flyer, but there is an informational flyer back there. You can read more about the theme and how to pledge and how to think about pledge. We have a one-page flyer in the back. Oh, Kate nicely brought it up. It's very colorful and cute, but lots of information on the back of it. Our goal this year is to increase our pledge units from 92 to 100. Since we have a lot of new members, we also want to reach a total pledge of $350,000. We get an additional, that represents about 75% of our expected income. We get another 25% from rental income, other sort of rebates, and anonymous donations, plate donations. So this goal represents a minimum operational target to help cover our staff salaries and benefits, including a 2% COLA raise for the following year, building expenses, and modest support. And if we get more, we can do more support to our affiliated programs. If you'd like to see a detailed budget at any time, you can contact a member of the board. During the campaign and for several weeks, there'll be a table in the gallery to get more information about pledge and how to submit one. You can designate a pledge amount and frequency in many ways. We encourage you to use Realm. There's a link in this week in the ad about there. There's also QR codes around the gallery where you can just take your device and pop up the link and enter your pledge that way. You can also fill out a hard copy form, and you'll need to do that if you're starting direct deposit. You'll need to fill out that information anyways. Or you can reach out to the pledge coordinator, myself, or by email is just pledge@accotinkuu.org at any time to convey your pledge wishes. So then we also have a set of optional activities to encourage and remind you about building hope. In recognition of Valentine weekend kickoff and today's sub-theme of giving heart to hope, there is a heart in the back that folks can autograph when they pledge. In honor of our March sub-themes, which are gathering and planting seeds of hope, we have some written seeds. They're color-coded, but when you pledge, you can also then indicate what's most important to you in regard to our mission. So we hope to fill a jar, a rainbow-colored jar of all the different reasons people pledge. So those are in the back. And we also have a fancy thermometer in the back, you'll see too, that'll track our progress as we go through the next six weeks. So no matter where you're at, we want to hear from you. Shared information is just as valuable for planning. The board and the church leadership are aware and sensitive to some in certain times. Some members and friends are still dealing with job loss. That sort of includes myself. This next year is still, up in the air, I guess. We appreciate all levels of giving. Even small amounts have helped us reach our target. If you are able to give more, we encourage you to consider being visionary to help build this house for hope. Thank you.
I realized that I needed a handheld mic for this next thing, because we're going to do our gratitude jar before I do a bunch of other announcements, just to break things up a little bit. So I need some children, I guess it could be adults, but I need somebody to come and pick out a gratitude or two from our gratitude jar and tell us what it says. Come on up, come on up. Oh, it looks like I forget what it's called too, a magnifying glass. Yeah. Okay, what else do we have? Cats, gratitude for cats. Oh my gosh, that's perfect. Thank you both. Thank you both for, we as part of our Defending Our Democracy initiative, which we're going to have a vote on the resolution about that initiative, you asked for more gratitude in the service. So that's when we started doing this practice once a month. We already had the gratitude jar. That's something that our LGBTQ plus group, True Accotink Colors, brought to us a couple years ago. But we added in sharing them with you on Sundays. So, as I said, I've got some announcements. There's a lot of stuff happening today, like so many things. You're going to have decision paralysis. We have the second in the three-part series of our after-church discussions on countering polarization. This was also requested as part of our Defending Our Democracy initiative. It's a series, so each of the discussions do build on each other, but you don't need to have attended the first session. Last month we introduced some listening skills. Today we'll review those And then we'll explore what true dialogue requires of us, and we'll practice telling our own stories to make those connections that help us to cross the divide. And that would be in the sanctuary, and that discussion will be followed by our drumming circle, hosted by Sacred Wheel, which happens once a month. Also, the orientation session for Our Whole Lives, our comprehensive sexuality education program, but this is the 4th through 6th grade part, will happen after the service in room 114 downstairs. And I'll tell you about the other thing after John Peterson tells us a little bit about right here, right now.
So we're going to do something a little different today. Usually we write to legislators. We're writing to a bank this time about the GEO Group. Anybody remember the GEO Group? They're the ones who got kicked out of Virginia for doing such a bad job of running the Lawrenceville prison. People got killed there, no explanation to their relatives. The various other things, chronic understaffing, which is typical of private prisons. That's what GEO does. They run private prisons. They're also now running lots of detention centers for immigrants. And we're writing to Citizens Bank, their major funder, to say, how about you stop financing this group? So, table in the back after the service.
All right, so you can sign on to that letter if you'd like after the service. And then the other thing that's happening after the service is that next Sunday, immediately after the service, we're going to have a special congregational meeting. And in order to have that congregational meeting go as smoothly and as quickly as possible, raise your hand if you like congregational meetings to go smoothly and quickly. Yeah. We're asking that you please discuss the issues and have your questions answered prior to the meeting. And there's another chance to do that. We have an online option for that, and we had a way to do that last Sunday. So there's another chance this Sunday to look at the two things that we will be voting on: adopting the Defending Our Democracy resolution and selling the easement. So today, starting at 11:30, you can ask questions, have discussion about those two things downstairs in room 121. The trifold about Defending Our Democracy's resolution will also be in the foyer. Paper copies of proxies and the full text of the resolution are also available in the foyer. The congregational meeting will begin immediately after the service, and we must have at least 40 members in attendance for a quorum. So if you know you can again, please give your proxy, which I just told you is in the foyer, to another member. Each member can only vote for themselves and one proxy. Yeah, and you can also get the proxies in the This Week newsletter. If you have any questions, please see Dale Howell. Can you raise your hand? Ed Kringer or Pam Cox. All right. So the other thing that you asked for in addition to gratitude was good news. So this week's good news is that we wrote our senators. That was a Right Here, Right Now campaign, yeah? We wrote our senators to stand firm and demand changes in ICE procedures. And the Minnesotans demonstrated daily, and with a little help from us, they won. According to a Washington Post article earlier this week, that the current administration has terminated the surge into Minnesota and is withdrawing all the ICE and CBP agents sent there. Wow. Good trouble made for a victory for American freedoms and immigrant rights. That's some good news, if you ask me. So today, we are making a house for hope. Yours should be flat right now to make it easier for you to do the illustrations that I'm going to tell you about in a second. You also have a piece of paper with some questions, in addition to this manila house flattened out that can be made into a three-dimensional house. So this year I've been sharing some of what's called systematic theology. Systematic theology means it isn't just about God. When we hear the word theology, we think it's just about God, but systematic theology is also about what human nature is like. It's also about thinking about what the goal of human life is and I don't mean just individual life, but what is humanity working or moving toward through history. It's also about how we make community together. I don't know if you know this, but different religions do that differently. Especially the children. I don't know if you know that some religious traditions are very hierarchical, with one person at the top with a lot of power, and then a pyramid of power spreading down towards the regular folks who have very little power. In that way of making community, the people at the bottom are just supposed to believe what the people at the top say to believe, and do what the people at the top say they should do. Unitarian Universalism is kind of the opposite of that. We believe in making community by using inclusive democracy. And inclusive democracy means that it's an even deeper democracy than just majority wins, at least whenever it can be, but something that takes everyone's needs into consideration so that even the minority is represented to some degree. We're going to have a congregational vote next Sunday. This is one of the ways that we practice democracy in this faith of ours, this Unitarian Universalist faith. So, the Reverend Dr. Rebecca Parker took this thing called systematic theology, and she envisioned it like a house for hope. So you have some questions that invite you on that other sheet of paper to think about all the different parts of the house, the walls and the rooms and the door and the roof and the foundation, each of which go along with different parts of systematic theology. We're not going to talk about the fancy words today. Just know that those questions are getting at those different crucial parts of making a shared ethos together. And the three-dimensional house is your opportunity to illustrate those different parts. For the walls of the house, we're suggesting you illustrate them with our 6 UU values, those that we just sang about: justice, equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. Those are the walls and the rooms and the doorway. They're how we help humans to flourish, how we do community as Unitarian Universalists, and how we share Unitarian Universalism with others. Not just by telling them about it, but by living our values, by being an example. So we're encouraging you to write or illustrate those values on the walls of your house. The foundation of Unitarian Universalism is love. That's why we sang that love is at the center. But if you illustrate the floor of the house, either on the top or the bottom, then nobody's going to see it. So we're encouraging you to do the love at the center, the foundational part, in this space here on both sides where you have the heart. I think of it like the light is shining down to the foundation. Maybe that's a stretch, but that's how I think about it. And finally, there's the roof. I want you to just imagine for a moment if a house didn't have a roof. How on hot days the sun would beat down on us unmercifully. When it rained, we would get drenched. In the winter, we wouldn't be able to keep the heat in to keep us warm from the cold outside. We need a roof on a house. So for that, we're asking you to illustrate what helps you when times are hard. When the sun is too hot or the winter too cold, or you're feeling scared or anxious, sad or angry, tired or lonely. What kind of roof helps you, protects you? I think in a way that's also love, and you'll notice it's right next to the love at the center part, because I know when I'm going through a hard time, it's love from other people, their generosity and compassion and care, and also the love and generosity and care that we receive from nature, from animals and trees and clouds. When I'm going through a hard time, that's what helps me. So those are all the ways that we are encouraging you to illustrate your house. We also have this really wonderful story to share with you. While you listen, you can be illustrating your house, and the story might give you some ideas for how to illustrate your house for hope. This story is written by Patricia McKissick and illustrated by April Harrison. It's called What is Given from the Heart. We're going to tell the story in 3 parts, and this is the first part.
It was a rough few months for Mama and me. We were already poor, but we got poorer last April when Daddy went to sleep on the front porch and never woke up. Mama cried and cried because Daddy didn't have a suit to be buried in. Come June, we lost the farm and moved to a rundown shotgun house in the bottom. On Friday the 13th, it rained frogs. Everything flooded, and Smitty, my dog, disappeared. Misery loves company, Mama said, shaking her head as she swept water out the back door. I hugged her up close, the way I always did when she was sad or I was scared. As long as we have our health and strength, we are blessed, James Otis, Mom said, trying to sound brave, but things did not get any better. We got an early snowfall in November, and Christmas was skimpy, but we made it through to the new year. For I realized February was upon us, with Valentine's Day just 2 weeks away. One Sunday, Reverend Dennis made an announcement during services. Just as we always do, we'll be delivering love boxes to needy folk in our community, he said. Irene Temple and her little girl have lost everything in a fire. We must add them to our list. Next week, bring whatever you think might be useful to them. Remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. James Otis, we need to help out, Mama said. On the cold walk home, I came back with, how are we going to do that, Mama? We ain't got nothing ourselves. Mama kept right on talking. Sister Bunch told me the daughter's name is Sarah. She's 7, 2 years younger than you. You can find a little bit of something for her, don't you think? I wasn't convinced. What do I have that a little girl will want? Now, said Mama. Remember what Reverend Dennis said. What is given from the heart reaches the heart. That night, I lay warm and toasty under one of Mama's quilts. Still, it made me tremble to think about fire taking away what little we have. What can I give to Sarah to make up for all she's lost? I wondered. I considered the blue ribbon I'd won in the school spelling bee. Nah, the award was important to me, but it wouldn't mean nothing to her. I looked over at my beautiful sparkling rock, the one I'd found by the creek. But how would that help Sarah? You can't eat a rock. Unable to come up with anything good, I pulled the covers over my head and drifted off to sleep.
So now we're going to ask you to do a little bit of a partner share. I love how James Otis is already trying to practice the platinum rule instead of the golden rule. People know the difference? The golden rule is to do unto others as you would have them do to you, but we have different preferences and needs, right? Sarah is different than James Otis, so he's thinking, what would she like, rather than what would I like? That's the platinum rule. So take a moment and discuss with each other, if you were James Otis, what might you give to Sarah? Or just how would you go about figuring out what to give to her? And remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. So take a moment, turn to someone close to you, and share your ideas for just a few minutes. We'll do maybe 1 minute each for each person. So that's a pretty short period of time. So turn to somebody and answer those questions. If you were James Otis, what would you give Sarah, or how would you figure out what to give her? But now we're going to sing together. We haven't talked yet about the garden that surrounds our House for Hope. We'll explore that another day. But we know we need a garden, right? That's where all of our food comes from, for one thing. So we're going to sing about how we cultivate that garden, a garden where each and every person flourishes, joined together in beloved community. That's why we're building our House for Hope. That's why we're building a better day, and it all starts with fertile ground.
Better day, may compassion be our guide as we offer up our lives in the service of justice, peace, and love. We are faith and hope abide.
Darling, have a heart. Don't let one mistake keep us apart. Oh, not meant to live alone. Turn this house into a home. When I climb the stair and turn the key, oh, please be there, still in love with me. Oh, not meant to live alone. Turn this house into a home. When I climb the stair and turn the key, oh, please be there, still in
So let's hear the next part of our story. Come morning, I found Mama in the kitchen, busy sewing. I know if we had a fire, I would miss my aprons, Mama explained. So I've decided to make Mrs. Temple one. But Mama, you're using your white tablecloth, the only nice thing you have. James Otis, I'm stitching with a loving heart. My hope is that this apron will give as much joy to Mrs. Temple as the tablecloth has given me. That made me study harder on what I could contribute. Maybe Sarah would like something to play with. Like my whistle from Dexter Benson's birthday party. But my spit was all over it. What about my crayons? I drew so many pictures with them, even though the black, pink, and dark blue were missing. No way. I couldn't give her used crayons. And I couldn't give her my pencil that was just a nub and not much eraser left either. As time flew toward Valentine's Day, I fretted more and more. I considered giving Sarah a puzzle. It didn't bother me that 2 pieces were missing, but it might bother her. Uh-oh, that wouldn't do, not even with a bow on it. And neither would my capeless Superman Halloween costume. Then I remembered my book, Things That Roll. Mom had paid 10 cents for it at the resale shop. I read it every night until I'd memorized each word, and then I drew pictures of all the stuff that rolled. Sarah might enjoy my book, I thought, but maybe she didn't like trucks and marbles and such. Still, it got me to thinking. I gathered my crayons, my pencil, and some paper, and got busy.
That's right. I want to encourage us to look at this story a little more closely. It doesn't start out so good for our mother and son. It's kind of like a Disney film. The daddy dies, and then they lose the farm and have to move, and then the whole area floods from some kind of torrential rains, or maybe because they now live in the part of town where it floods. Poor people end up living in that part of town often. And their dog runs off. Or maybe the dog died. We don't know because they don't know. Now this reminds me of a famous story from the Bible about a man named Job. Just like in our story, just like in this story, things go from bad to worse for Job. Loved one dies, he loses his land and all of his wealth, he loses his health. Sounds similar, doesn't it? Now, I used to think that this was just a story in the Bible, just a story, but then I worked as a chaplain at a hospital. And I can't tell you how many times people I met in the hospital were not only suffering from the health problems that got them into the hospital, but had lost a job, or a home, or a loved one, or 2 or 3 loved ones all at once, or at least all in a short period of time. I realized that the story of Job happens here in real life to real people. Now in the story, Job's friends tell him he must have done something wrong for God to punish him with all of this suffering. I don't know, I guess the friends are trying to help, but it doesn't sound helpful, does it? Job agrees that it isn't helpful, and that's not what I did as a chaplain. As a chaplain, mostly I listened. Often the people already knew how they were going to get through the hard time, already knew what the roof of their house for hope was like. Mostly, I just reflected back to them what they were telling me. Sometimes I might have a helpful question about the roof, and they might add or take away something from the drawing they were making of their house for hope. Another thing that can be helpful is knowing other people have suffered and had sorrows and hardships too, knowing that we're not alone. Misery loves company, says James Otis's mother. Now, have you ever thought about how that saying can have 2 meanings? We usually think it means what James Otis's mother means for it to mean, that life can be like the story of Job, with one hardship after another. But there's another way to hear it. Misery loves company might mean that when we're miserable, we need company. We need people around us who understand our suffering, either because they've experienced the same or a similar suffering, or just because they're good listeners. And when that happens, when we know we're not alone, we feel a little better, a little more hopeful, a little more able to keep going. That's called resilience, which is our theme for this month. Now, in our story that we are hearing, James Otis and his mother first learn about misery loves company when they hear this version of it, when they hear at church about another family that's lost their house in a fire. The church already knows that misery loves company because every year they deliver love boxes to those who are in need. You might think of the house of hope that you're making like a kind of a love box with a message of love and hope for yourself and for others. Poor as they are, after hardship upon hardship in their own lives, James Otis's mother tells him they need to do something for this family. James Otis's mother tells him to make something for the little girl in the family, Sarah. And he doesn't know what to do, doesn't know how to help. But he watches his mother take her favorite fancy tablecloth and sew it into an apron. This doesn't tell James Otis what to give Sarah. he still doesn't know what to give her, and neither do we because we haven't gotten to that part of the story yet. But it inspires him to keep working to figure it out. It reminds him that what is given from the heart reaches the heart. James Otis and his mother don't have a lot, but what they do have a lot of is love. They have a lot of love to give. You see, you can lose your farm, you can lose your dog, you can even lose your daddy sometimes. But love, when you're rooted in fertile ground, when you're building a new day, when you're creating a world of love, when you're showing up to heal those in pain, when you're offering up your life with compassion as your guide, well then love never runs out. Remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. This is really what it means to build a house for hope. The house itself isn't the point. It's what we build it with love and care, compassion and generosity, justice and peace. A house is not a home until we add those gifts given from the heart, those gifts centered in love. And this place isn't a home, isn't a welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, isn't a house for hope unless we make it, unless we build it and fill it with love and care, compassion and generosity, justice and peace, which we do year after year. But you need to get your pledges in for us to keep doing that. Because misery loves company. I didn't think about how that would come off after I said the pledges thing. Misery loves company. So let's be good company for each other when we're hurting. Because that's how we create a world of love, how we heal those in pain with love and compassion as our guide, which are the lyrics for the next part of Rooted in Fertile Ground.
We are building a house of hope, house of hope. We are building a house of hope, house of hope. As we work and dream, we are all about. We are building a house of hope, house of hope.
Let's continue our story and find out what gift James Otis gave from his heart to reach Sarah's heart. On the Sunday before Valentine's Day, we were off to church. Along the way, Mama told me, as usual, the trustees will deliver the love boxes to the homes of the needy. But Reverend Dennis has invited the Temples to receive theirs at Olive Chapel so they can meet the congregation. The church was full. Mama beamed as she carefully placed the apron in the box. When we presented the Temples with their love box, filled with all kinds of clothing, food, toys, and tools, Mrs. Temple was overcome with emotion. The congregation shouted, "Amen." Even so, Sarah seemed sad and afraid. She clung to her mama's arm and hid her face. I walked over to where they were standing. "Hi, Sarah," I said, sounding cheery-like. "My name is James Otis, and I'm pleased to meet you." "Same to you," she answered, looking at her feet. "Here," I said, handing her my gift. I wrote it, drew the pictures, and put it together by myself, just for you. Sarah managed a smile as she stared at the book I had made. Then, real slow-like, she read the cover. "From my heart to your heart," by James Otis Petway. It's about a little girl named Sarah, and "Don't tell me," she said. "I want to read about it myself, by myself." "I can't believe it," she squealed. "A book about me." Then she covered her mouth to catch a giggle. Seeing little Sarah happy made me happy, too. I laughed out loud. I put some hard words in it so you can look them up. You sound just like my teacher. Sarah pressed the book to her heart, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Thank you, James Otis. I will keep this book forever and ever." You think she liked it? Walking home, Mama held my hand. The Temples looked very grateful, she said. "I think we reached their hearts," I said. Mama noted. "James, I'm proud of you." "How come?" I asked. "'Cause you're you." In winter, night comes early. The sky was darkening and it had started to snow. I stuck my tongue out to catch a snowflake as Mama spun joyfully round and round. Suddenly, Mama stopped. "Look, there's something on our porch," she said. I rushed ahead, and there it was. A love box had been delivered to us, and our hearts rejoiced. Our hearts rejoiced.
It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
So, before we get to our community blessing, I want to just say that a few words about it. We've been alternating saying the original community blessing and the adapted version for over a year now. And we had an online vote about whether to keep alternating or whether to choose just one. And here's the thing. The vote, by a large margin, 80% said to choose one version. But there were two parts to the vote, and about half the votes were for one, and about half the votes were for the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to try saying one for a few weeks in a row, and then the other for a few weeks in a row, just to feel what it feels like. Remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. So we recited the original last Sunday, and so we're going to recite that one again today to start the series of reciting the original for a few weeks. Now, we don't usually say the original community blessing for our multi-generational services, so it might be new to some of you who are children, but don't worry, you'll get the hang of it.
Please rise now in body or in spirit to join in our closing words. As we extinguish our chalice, I invite you to join me in these words of David Bumbaugh. This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all our differences and beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time, death, and the space between the stars. We pause now in silent witness to that unity. Now that we've gathered together in this welcoming and inclusive spiritual home, let us go out into the world inspired to share our values. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen.
Let's build that house, y'all.